Greetings, Spartans. It is, it is too early for me to be doing this, but I kind of woke up mad and I had to get something out, so here we are. In case you haven't been following the news, or in case this doesn't affect you, or perhaps you live under a rock somewhere where Twitter doesn't send anything anymore, our illustrious felon-in-chief has decided he's just going to not follow the law again. Surprising, right? He recently, today, issued an order that froze basically all federal funding everywhere. They tried to walk it back as the day went on and make some excuses and say, oh, we didn't mean this or we didn't mean that, and oh, you're just taking it out of context and blah, blah, blah. But people all across our country have been in outcry and on there's just people freaking out. They're freaking out. And everywhere from Columbus, Ohio, to Oregon, to Anchorage, Alaska, to Miami, Florida, Louisiana, Illinois, Nebraska. I've seen stories from a housing authority in Maine. People saying that they don't have access to their Medicaid portals. They don't have access to their funding for child care, for Head Start, for food assistance programs, for housing programs, heat programs. The list just goes on and on and on and on. Millions, billions in federal funding that was already signed into law. He just said, oh, I don't think we should do that. We're just going to stop everything because I want to do it. That's not his lawful power to do. He wants to say it is because they have this whole thing where they think they should just be able to do whatever the fuck they want. But it's not the law. And they had this little 1-2 page memo that had all these reasons because they're trying to stop new Green Deal funding and Marxist spending and social engineering and DEI and woke ideology. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the so-called Green New Deal never got passed. They like to talk about it like it's the boogeyman under your bed, but never got passed. And all this other stuff, I don't even think they really know what the definitions of any of this is. They just say it because they're buzzwords. But in reality, a few examples of the things that they absolutely put a wrench in was the Medicaid services portal. It was completely offline. No one in all 50 states could access it, could figure out how they're going to get their funding, how they're going to get their money, whether or not they're going to be able to pay for all the services that Medicaid provides. Do you know how many people are affected by Medicaid? About 40-some-odd% of the entire country. Predominantly people who are not very wealthy and who need help because they don't have much money. Food safety inspections, funding for that was also froze and affected. Pell Grants, college aid. No one knew if they were going to be able to get their college aid because all that comes from the government. Funds for natural disasters. Grants to help veterans with housing help and transitioning out of the service. The Suicide Veterans Hotline was affected. Meals on Wheels. Head Start for children. I believe it was, Louisiana especially, said that they suddenly couldn't access the portal that they use to get funding for their Head Starts and their schools, the federal funding that was already approved and signed into law by Congress. Grants for police and firemen organizations. Meals on frickin' Wheels. Money and funds that have been put aside and allocated for grants for offices that help with women that are in abusive relationships or rape victims. All that was put on hold. Now, the good thing is, people quickly went to court about this, and a federal judge put a freeze on it. But that only lasts a few days. And then they're going to have a hearing about it and then decide what happens after that. So, this is where we are, people. I mean, they've been in office for not even 2 weeks, and he's trying to just tear everything down. He couldn't go even a week without trying to do something illegal. He fired a bunch of inspectors generals. Do you know what inspector generals are? It's okay if you don't. I understand. Most people try not to know about these things. The inspector generals are offices that were put into place before Nixon, but then saw some laws enacted by Congress back then, because back then Congress actually had a spine to try and help give them more powers and to make them kind of separate from the party whims of the government, so that they had long terms, and you weren't supposed to be able to get rid of them unless there was specific, detailed reasons given to Congress, and there was a 30-day notice given to Congress. Now, granted, a lot of people don't like all these technicalities, and they think it's all bullshit and everything else, but the reason that these technicalities are important is because they help give that separation of power, so that the president can't just go run roughshod over everything and just do whatever the hell he wants. Well, he just fired 16 of them. Just in a tweet or something, I think, or an email maybe. He likes to do stuff with tweets. Or his, I'm not going to call them truths because they're not. It is a pack of lies, every bit of it. He also fired a bunch of people from the National Labor Board. Wasn't supposed to be able to do that, but he called them, said, "Hey, I don't want you there anymore." And let's not forget the pause on all communications and funding for the National Institute of Health, which paused a lot of programs for cancer research and meetings concerning funding for disease research and chronic disease cures and planning for further testing and further trials for different drugs. I mean, just all across the board. He pulled us out of the World Health Organization. Do you know what's going on in America right now? It's called a bird flu. The reason that a lot of our egg prices are going through the roof right now because they had to kill a bunch of birds so they didn't spread bird flu everywhere. And you know where we usually got information to collaborate with the rest of the world? It's through the World Health Organization. And there's also a pertussis outbreak that's going on in Kentucky right now. It's small, but it's there. Whooping cough, a thing that people are supposed to be vaccinated against, but, we're not supposed to believe in vaccines anymore. So, of course, things happen. And even people who are vaccinated, see, that's another thing. A lot of people have this weird, vague misunderstanding about vaccines. They think that, oh, you're vaccinated, so you're not going to get it. So if I don't want a vaccine, then it's okay. Because that's my choice. My body, my choice, right? Well, here's the thing. Vaccines are not 100%. I mean, what is wrong with your brain that you think that just because... If you thought a vaccine really worked that well, why wouldn't you get it? If you were going to be 100% protected all the time. That they say that, but then they don't act like it is. Because they know it's not. They're just stubborn and idiotic, and they just don't want to do it because someone told them they should do it. And so vaccines, they wane over time. The protection does. Strains evolve. Things change. Maybe for whatever reason your body just didn't uptake the immunity as well. Your immune system just didn't really vibe with the vaccine all that well. I mean, to keep things kind of simple. Um, Lots of reasons why vaccines don't work as effectively as you think they should, especially if they're only being used by a certain percentage of the population. If a vaccine rate is not in the 90s, chances are you're going to see outbreaks. And even if it is in the 90s, depending on the virus or the disease, it might even need to be like 96, 97% in a population before you can actually keep things from having an outbreak. Anyway. Oh yeah, but Robert Kennedy Jr. is going up for Senate confirmation. I think tomorrow, maybe someday this week. And he's a strong vaccine advocate, right? Right? Yeah, no. Anyway, so that's what these a-holes are doing. They're trying to just take everything over. It doesn't matter what Congress says. He just thinks he should be able to do whatever he wants. That is his governing philosophy. It's criminal. It's illegal. And unless people shout a bunch about it and really tell them where to go fuck off, they're going to keep doing it. And thankfully, there are a few things that are going to happen. This just happened yesterday. So, you got to have at least a little bit of time for a response, right? But thankfully, there was the judge who blocked all this to start with. That's a good start. Block it, but still everything's in disarray. Everything's in chaos. Even if they don't get away with it this time, they're going to try again in some other way. And it was just like the Muslim ban when he came into office. He threw out some kind of order that was blatantly unconstitutional, and then they tweaked the language for a few weeks, and then they finally got something through. But anyway, Democrats have already called for an all-hands-on-deck emergency meeting for today to discuss what they're going to do to slow things down, to put some wrenches in these cogs and figure out some way to help build public pressure. There's a group called Indivisible that's been having meetings across the country to try and tell Democrats and other public officials that if they're going to do anything about this administration, they have to start now. They can't wait and say, well, is this too extreme? Is this not extreme enough? How's this going to affect my poll numbers? No. We need to act now to block everything. Any kind of bill they want to push, any kind of nominee they want to get through, if there's a way to put a cog in a cloture vote, or just to grind things to a halt. I mean, just take the Mitch McConnell playbook and start acting from it, because that's what you need to do right now. Grind everything to a freaking halt. I don't care what they want to do. I don't care what it is they want to do. No unanimous consent for anything. You need to just stop everything at every turn you can, because that's the only way. Trying to appeal to his humanity, he ain't got no humanity. He was born with a silver spoon in his mouth, and he's been grinding people under his heel ever since. Trying to act like he's got humanity, trying to appeal to his sense of something or other, like he's going to learn this time. Thank you, senators who always said, "Oh, we think this time he's going to do. He understands now." No. He is an autocratic dictator, and the only way to oppose his agenda is to destroy it. It's the only defense you have. You have to go on offense every step of the way. So I hope they do that. I'll definitely be calling my representatives and complaining and getting my voice out there. I highly recommend you do the same. If you know anybody who has, and ladies and gentlemen, This is Eastern Kentucky. Who among us don't know somebody who relies on Medicaid or some type of food assistance or housing assistance or heat assistance or child care assistance? Freaking Head Start. We all send our kids to Head Start just about. If it wasn't for the federal funding that was approved by our representatives and signed into law by some president somewhere, we wouldn't have it. It's not his decision to just take this stuff away. You know, they might not like everything that was in these laws that spending was allocated for, but it was allocated. And it was agreed to by our representatives, it was passed into law, and it was signed. And for him to just decide, you know what, since I'm the new guy, I think I'm just going to, cut all this crap out, like he's just some unitary executive and he can just do whatever the flip he wants. No. That's not how government works. It's not how it should work if you want to live in a democracy. Now, if you want to live in an autocracy or in Russia or in a monarchy, then yeah, long live the king. But this ain't that. And this stuff is the reason why. So that essential services, so that things that people rely on, that gets agreed on and passed from one administration to the other, can't just be torn away because one person decides, fuck it. I know you think it probably doesn't do anything. I know you think that your individual voice probably doesn't move anybody in particular. And you know what? Maybe you're right. But if a lot of us, a bunch of us, if all of us just start calling these people, sending emails, saying something to people, it's like a chorus. The individual voice might not be that loud, but everybody together, the large group, they can get heard. Try to do what you can where you can, Spartans. And hopefully, God willing, we'll make it through the next 4 years intact. Damaged, frayed, no doubt, but hopefully at least intact. All right. Please share this with somebody, anybody. Let's try to get some voices heard and get some stuff out there, Spartans. All right. Good luck to everybody. I'm out.